It's okay. You're okay.
All right. So, how long have you been blacksmithing for?
I started sharpening knives in 1986. I started making knives in 92.
Okay. And I read on your bio that actually you went to a bladesmithing class for that, or school?
I went to the American Bladesmith Society Bladesmithing School in Arkansas, and I took the first class in 92, and then I just kept going.
Right on. So, when did you actually earn the title of being a master bladesmith?
1997.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
So 5 years from 92.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure too that with anything that anybody's trying for the first time, that I'm pretty sure there's quite a while of dealing with the trial and error, trying to figure everything out. Was that pretty frustrating at first?
I think it's just a part of the craft. I think it's a part of learning anything. I think if you want to learn to fry some eggs, you're not going to do it right the first time.
Oh yeah.
And, so you're constantly learning and applying it, especially as something as kind of complicated as bladesmithing. You got to learn to swing a hammer and move the steel, and then there's heat treatment, and there's fit and finish. So I knew it was going to be a long pathway, but my experience from the first time of putting a piece of steel into some coal and pulling it out and seeing it red hot and hitting it with a hammer, there's just something really very beautiful about that. And it's kind of a meditation, because I learned to forge with coal, so you constantly have to work the coal and move it around and add more coke to it, and so it's, you've got something to do as the steel is heating up. And then you're making a tool. So unlike making food where you make this one meal and you put it out, you're working on something that hopefully will outlive you or me. You're making a tool that hopefully someone will cherish and take care of for a long period of time. So, and you get that. I mean, that's not lost on somebody that does it for the first time.
Yeah.
So for me, the first time I started hammering on a piece of steel, it just resonated in such a way that I thought, it doesn't matter how long it takes me to learn this, I love it now, even though I'm completely incompetent. I love the experience, so I'll just keep doing it, and hopefully I'll get good.
No, that's great. So actually, at this point in your career of bladesmithing, as far along as you are, is it still more, very calculated whenever you go through it, or is it something that you can think of something spontaneously you can just jump right into when it comes to new projects?
Good question. I think it's both. I mean, going into making a new knife, something I haven't done before, I try to think through all the steps and potential problems, and then try to execute. But there are times when the steel begins to move in a particular direction or a way that I didn't anticipate. And so at that point I get to make a decision to either resist it and try to make it do what I want it to do, or stand back and look at it and say, wait a minute, this could be really interesting, and then go with that flow. And it kind of goes both ways. I mean, there are times where I've been trying to make a particular pattern, very controlled, particular pattern, and if it starts to go sideways, I'll abandon it and start over and realize what mistakes I was making. Other times I'll go with the flow and say, wow, I really like this, take it to the end point, and I could be completely surprised, in a wonderful way, and say, oh, that was unexpected. Wow.
Okay, I know there's one thing that I know David was curious about, so I'd go ahead and shoot my ask on that, is that you write smoked salmon that we saw online.
Yeah.
I know he was very curious about your process on that, because it looks like a really, really fun way of making food.
It was really fun, and it was in one of those inspired moments where it just kind of came to me. So I knew that we were going to do the shoot for Raw Craft with Bourdain in the shop, so I knew that was imminent. They were coming to the shop, and they wanted to shoot a short segment on making some kind of food. So they said, is there something that you cook in your shop, which I don't really cook. I just make knives here, but I have made pizzas above the forge before. It's plenty hot, but I didn't really want to make a pizza. We wanted something where Anthony could use the knife, in preparation for part of the dish. And then I thought, he's coming to the Northwest. We should do an iconic dish like salmon or crab. Salmon seemed to be a no-brainer. For me, I love smoked salmon. So then I started thinking, what's an easy way to smoke some salmon? And I had just started working with meteorites. So that was a thing that I was really passionate about and really interested in. And then I was in here working one night making some meteorite steel, and realized that I could just stick the meteorite in the coils and get it hot. Or it occurred to me, so I tried it. I just put the meteorite in there, turned the machine on, and it began to glow. And I thought, I think that there's plenty of heat there, and it's the right temperature. In other words, I wanted a slow, sort of a warm smoke. I wanted the fish just to come up to like 125, 130. So I just gathered some stuff around the shop. I have some fruit wood here, and I just, put the meteorite in a container so that I could set the wood next to it. And so the wood would fall off the meteorite. And then capped it, and I drilled a hole in the lid and put a thermocouple in there just to kind of watch the temperature. The temperature just went up to like 200 and just stopped and hung out for like 10 minutes. And I thought, I can cook salmon in there. So the next day, this was at night, so the next day I went to the fish store, got a couple of slabs of beautiful white king salmon, and tried it just for lunch. And it was just perfect. I mean, it was so weird. Like, the meteorite was the right size, it got up to the right temperature, it glowed, so I knew it was going to be interesting. The cherry wood gave off plenty of smoke, so it actually tasted like smoked fish. It wasn't just like a visual thing. So, and so then I thought, well, Tony can do some salsa. Peaches were ripping. We were in the middle of the summer, so we had peaches, we had basil, we had onions, some other fruit, a little vinegar. It's like perfect, summer smoked salmon.
Wow. Sounds really good.
Nice.
Well, speaking of the meteorite and everything, so what inspired you to actually start to incorporate the meteorite into the steel?
So, lots of cultures, including the Northwest native people up and down the coast, there are legends where man's first encounter with a chunk of iron was a meteorite. So there is no native iron on the West Coast, unlike upper Michigan or Pennsylvania or Japan, where they have black sand beaches and that's where they acquired the iron. There's no iron on the West Coast. But these guys had these big daggers that they had, and the legend was that the first one was forged by a woman who was a blacksmith, and she forged it from a meteorite. So I was reading about these things, and I thought it was really interesting, and I was just curious, like, what's it like to forge a meteorite? So I went on eBay, bought a meteorite, came in, put it under the hammer, and started forging. At that point, I had to make blade out of it, and just fun. It was cool. It was interesting. Yeah.
All right, so I do have a lot of bladesmiths that actually follow my page. So, any words of advice you'd like to give out?
I mean, make the best stuff you possibly can. Use your work. You know some guys that are making kitchen knives, but they never use them. Their wives cook. And so sometimes they're a little bit clunky, or the shape's not quite right because they've never used one. So use your work, because it will inform you as to whether or not it's an effective design. It's kind of like cooks, people that want to learn to cook that don't taste their food.
Yeah.
They start to make salad dressing or something, and they just follow a recipe, and they never taste it until it goes on the lettuce. And you're like, oh, it's too oily, or it's way too acidic, or whatever it is. So I think it's important for bladesmiths, regardless if you're making a honey knife, or a kitchen knife, use it and see if it works. What else? Try to find your own style. I see a lot of people mimicking other people's style, and I think it's limiting. I think that there's lots of room for innovation, and today, YouTube is just such an amazing resource, especially for bladesmiths. In the middle of the night, you can click on a video of somebody doing a technique that 20 years ago when I started was you'd have to travel across the country, and hang out with somebody for a weekend if you could find them. And now because there's so much information, so keep digging and innovating.
All right, so one bladesmith in particular who's been following my page, Ben Knopfsinger, just wanted me to ask you what your thoughts on the importance of balance, heft, and blade thickness in the knife.
I mean, they're all really important. There's no perfect answer. There's no perfect geometry. Just like there's no perfect automobile, you sort of have to choose what features you're looking for. That when I think of balance, it's a little misleading. There is a feel that I think a knife should have, and for the most part, that balance is right in the center between the handle and the blade. That said, there are some blade styles, more like Japanese or Asian style, where it's more blade heavy. So that feel should be there. But I don't think that there's a formula per se that says it should feel like this. But this goes back to the user thing. So if you make a blade, then you should go ahead and use it and just be brutally honest with yourself, be your own critic, and say, does that feel right or does it feel too heavy? Does it feel too handle heavy? And then make some adjustments from there. As far as thinness goes, you want the knife to be as efficient as it possibly can be, but not be fragile. And then that has to do with the material and the heat treatment, like how it was forged, and all of the pre-treatments going into heat treatment. All that stuff figures in. Everything matters. So it's like a bottle of wine. It's not just the grapes. It's when they were picked and how they were handled and were they stored in stainless. All that stuff matters. So as far as all of those questions, yeah, they all matter, and use them, and you'll figure it out. Yeah.
All right. So Bob, I want to thank you for your time. You're welcome. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
We got a nice little gift here for you.
Sweet.
Thank you for your time.
I love this stuff. Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
Thanks
as
for the
well.
visit.
It was an honor.
And if you guys have questions, just call me, email me, and I'll help out.
All right, we'll do.
Yeah. Too bad I have to wait till later to drink this.
Yeah.
All right. So
Thank
this
you.
So this is Joe from the Knife Nerd and Chef David Buchanan from chefsresources.com, and this is what we have.